Okay, so we have been talking about the theories of motivation in psychology. And so I got a few questions on these worksheets, and so I'm going to go through and explain the answers and how I got the answers. So basically this first page is just putting the term with the definition. So you should have been able to find these in your notes. If not, you probably could have Googled them and found them. So the first one, this theory emphasizes inborn genetic factors rather than learned. And that was the very first thing that we talked about, which is instinct. So with an instinct, remember that you don't learn those types of things. You're kind of born with it. We talked about a baby being able to suck and get the food and nutrients that they need. They're born that way. Breathing, we're not taught how to breathe. That's an instinct. We already know how. So think of you're born with it. It's not learned. This theory states that a basic biological need produces tension or drive that motivates an organism to satisfy the need. Well, the only one that we talked about that even has the word drive is drive reduction theory. And so that one basically states that we have basic drives that motivate us to get stuff done or to achieve certain goals. Number 3 says organisms try to maintain optimum levels of stimulation and activity, increasing or reducing them as necessary. This one is the optimum arousal theory. And that one basically, the definition says it all. Organisms try to maintain optimum levels of stimulation and activity that helps them achieve what they need to. It helps them achieve their goals. Number 4, people obtain satisfaction by striving for and attaining a level of excellence. That one is achievement motivation. Number 5, people are motivated by the conscious desire for personal growth and artistic fulfillment. This one was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Number 6, cognitive theory that observes the people are motivated by tangible rewards such as money or grade. That's extrinsic. Extrinsic, they have to get something out of it. So think of, if your parents ever gave you money for making good grades. My parents never did that, but I know some people do. Number 7, cognitive theory that suggests that people are motivated by rewards within for their own enjoyment. So they're not necessarily getting something physical out of it. They're getting something that they want within themselves, and that would be intrinsic. So you can think of intrinsic inside. Okay, so I almost wrote off the page. You were supposed to use this worksheet to help you complete the next worksheet. So I'm going to put this one down. We'll go through each one together. Alright, number 8 says, Ward, Bert's boss, is a CEO of a big company, Incorporated. He sees his employees as lazy, untrustworthy sloths with no interest in their work. So he uses a highly structured, heavily supervised work environment with increased pay and benefits. What kind of motivation does Ward assume his employees are primarily motivated by? So here, he is using what? You have an increased pay and benefits. So you have to think to yourself, which one talks about gaining something out of motivation? The only one that would make sense is extrinsic. So they're getting something tangible out of it. What's tangible? They're getting increased pay and increased benefits. So this one would be extrinsic. Number 9, the fact that some people often ignore their hunger and skip lunch in anticipation for a special dinner is a direct contradiction to the which one? So here we're talking about people's hunger and how they skip lunch. And the only one that really makes sense to me is the drive reduction theory, because we have drives to, I can't see it on here, to fulfill our, what's a good word? Our needs. And so, we need to eat in order to live. So being driven to eat is part of the drive reduction theory. So ignoring that hunger and skipping lunch is going against that drive reduction theory. Bert has just finished watching a documentary about dirt that he thought was long and boring. Bert feels like he wants to get out of the house and do something exciting. What theory of motivation best describes Bert's behavior? So you've got to think about what Bert is wanting to do. Right now, it says that he thought it was long and boring. He wants to get out of the house and do something exciting. What theory of motivation do you think this one is talking about? It wouldn't be instinct. There's nothing instinctual that he's doing. Drive reduction theory, getting out of the house is not necessarily something that is life or death. Optimum arousal, organisms try to maintain optimum levels of stimulation and activity. So this one's talking about those optimum levels, those high levels of stimulation that we might need in order to not be bored. So I think optimum arousal would be the best one for that one, because it's, increasing activity, and that's what this one is talking about. So optimal arousal. Okay. Number 11, Betty is taking the TAT test. She looks at a picture and says, "The woman in this picture is trying to solve a problem at work. She is thinking hard. She knows if she thinks about it long enough, she'll be able to figure it out." What motivational theory best describes this kind of response? So this one, it's just talking about how she can achieve. And so, it's not talking about a learned behavior. It's not talking about a biological need that motivates us. It's not talking about getting up there and increasing levels of motivation. People obtain satisfaction by striving for and attaining a level of excellence. So I think that's what this one is talking about, achievement motivation, because, she's trying to solve a problem at work. She's thinking hard. She knows that if she thinks about it long enough, she'll be able to figure it out. So that's just directly saying, how she's going to achieve motivation. So this one is point blank, just achievement motivation. Okay, number 12. In high school, Bert went out for baseball. He played because it was fun and he enjoyed it. It really didn't matter whether his team won state or any trophies. What theory of motivation best describes Bert's reason to play? So, I think it's important to underline here that it really didn't matter whether his team won any state or any trophies. So, you have to think about, why is he playing? Is he playing for the rewards, for the title or the trophies, or is he playing more for himself? And so that's where your extrinsic or intrinsic comes in. Because he's not playing for, to win or to get any trophies, he's only playing for himself. So it would be intrinsic. Number 13, while watching Survivor on television, Bert realizes that the contestants could not worry about creating alliances or making contributions until they had first secured a source of food and shelter. What best describes their motivation? This one, you could probably get away with drive reduction, although it's not specifically talking about the need for food and water. It does state it in there. It's not going to be optimal arousal because they're not really increasing any stimulation of activity. I don't think it'd be achievement motivation. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People are motivated by conscious desire for personal growth and artistic fulfillment. This is just a fancy definition of saying that, you have to meet certain needs before you can meet other needs. So I think that one goes along with number 13 because, they first have to find a source of food and water before they worry about, creating alliances and doing all these other things. If they don't have food and shelter, then they aren't going to be able to survive to do these other things. So this is the first need in that hierarchy of needs in this situation. So this one would be Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm just going to put Maslow's hierarchy. Number 14, Betty's cat Bo loves to hide, stalk, and pounce on toys or food. Sometimes Bo pounces on Betty's feet in the morning. What theory of motivation best describes Bo's behavior? So this one is kind of confusing. Some of you might have put actually, I don't know what I was thinking. This one is actually pretty easy. It would be instinct because cats are kind of just born with that ability to, hunt. They stalk their prey. You might see them stalking their toys and pouncing on them because that's just what cats do. So this would be instinct. Number 15, Bert stopped by Barry's house to drop off presents and was feeling very hungry. He saw 2 deviled eggs on the mantel and quickly devoured them. Afterward, he no longer felt a need to eat. What theory of motivation best describes this? Well, that one's pretty easy. You have a drive for basic needs, for basic biological needs, and so that drive, hunger drive, is what tells you to eat, or else you might starve. So that is the drive reduction theory. 16, Betty works hard in her classes, wants to be extremely good in her field, and is motivated by a need to succeed. She also likes competent feedback from her teachers. Betty develops smaller, successive goals for herself and is very happy upon reaching each goal. What theory of motivation best describes Betty's behavior? This one would just be the achievement motivation, and that's because it's not really talking about anything specific. You might get away with putting intrinsic because it says she does it for herself. But here it's explaining different ways of how Betty is going to achieve motivation. So this would just point blank be achievement motivation. 17, Betty enjoys calm folk music and meditative yoga classes. Bert enjoys rock and roll and rough sports. What theory of motivation best explains these differences in Betty and Bert's typical and motivational states? So here, it's saying Betty likes calm stuff. Bert enjoys rock and roll, so he likes, kind of loud things. And so this one, it's not talking about biological needs, it's not talking about instinct, stuff that you're born with. It doesn't talk about gaining something or doing it for yourself. It's not really talking about the hierarchy of needs. So the only one really left is the optimum arousal theory. And remember, this one says that people try to maintain optimum levels of stimulation activity, and that's obviously different between people. So Betty likes it calm. Bert enjoys loud rock and roll music and stuff. So that optimum arousal, like I said, is going to be different for everybody. Number 18, Bert's friend, Bob the butcher, goes to work every day. He doesn't much like slaughtering animals, but as Bob says, it's a paycheck. What motivational theory best explains Bob's motivation to work? So this one, his comment, it's a paycheck. You have to think about what that means in terms of motivation. He doesn't like doing this work, but he receives a paycheck from it. So the only one that would make sense is the extrinsic motivation. He's only doing it because he gets something out of it, and that's his paycheck that he receives. So that is the answers. These are the answers to theories of motivation, and hopefully you better understand kind of these theories and what they're talking about. So you might go back to your paper if you can and look and see which ones you got correct, which ones you got wrong, and use this tool to study with, because you might see some of these on your upcoming test when we get there. If you have any more questions over this, just let me know. And then if you can't get back to your paper, I'm not sure if you can or not. I haven't messed with Google Classroom that much. Let me know if you'd rather me upload this. I can, and I probably will anyway. That way you can have the answers. So, again, if you have any more questions, just let me know. This is your only assignment for today, Tuesday. So be looking for your next one on Thursday.